What's up, everybody? So what you are about to learn is exactly how we have been able to architect on the 8 to the 9 figure project level when it comes to actually building AI architecture. I'm going to show you the exact thinking steps and processes that we apply to actually look at the data, look at the current workflows, look at everything about the current business, and then make a decision on actually where and what we start building in terms of how the architecture comes together. You're going to be able to take this high level thinking and then go ahead and simply apply it in your business, whether you are a beginner or whether you run an SMB business. This is going to be literally your roadmap in terms of understanding what actually AI is and what it means to actually build like AI architecture and how that actually rolls into AI systems that you can take from this video and directly go and deploy that into your business. So if that interests you, sit with me because there is a ton of stuff that we're going to be going through, a ton of value, and also there's a bonus at the end of this video. So you're going to see here we have tons of documentation, tons of protocols that we're going to be going through. This is the master protocol for our AI systems building when we reach the level of really trying to understand, what to build, where to start, so that you don't try to throw AI onto everything. That we don't believe in doing that. Okay, so again, like I said, there's going to be a ton of documentation that we're going to go through. Everything here is built off of our case studies that we are working on right now, including this project, which I will share with you guys. So before I kind of get into this case study, I want you guys to understand something here. Data moats, AI architecture, and AI systems. You will be hearing the word AI systems been thrown a lot all around the internet. So I am going to distill all of that and to really get you to understand how AI works and how you can, again, literally go and apply this directly into your business, use this thinking, use this protocol, and go and dominate. That is our goal for this video. So generative AI is the electricity. Proprietary, well-arranged data is the grid that pays dividends. So AI architecture is the high-velocity circuitry that channels the current and the AI systems. So obviously that leads to precision term buys that spin into compounding profits. That's the way that I need you to think about this whole framing of this video so that you can understand actually, again, where all of this thinking is coming from. So a lot of our case studies are under NDA in terms of these high-level projects that we work on. And I have been able to request, obviously, access in terms of what we can share, how we can share this with you guys to make complete sense out of what it actually means to build architecture at the 8 to 9 figure level. So it represents long-term innovation infrastructure, this specific project which we're referring to here, which is on the value creation in terms of multiple sectors across different industry collaborations with domain-specific leaders, which I will share with you more about. Some of these companies you might know, obviously Apple, Google, DJI, Starlink, just to name a few, but there are a ton other that are involved in this project. So before I break down this case study, I want to mention that obviously it's very important that we understand the market right now because smart founders are rapidly adapting. Everyone's trying to keep up to AI, which is very hard to do at this stage. So you need a new playbook in terms of, your thinking, in terms of, what you are actually building so that you also don't go ahead and build the wrong thing and waste your time where someone is just going to copy your idea or whatever, because that is happening at a rapid pace right now. So you're watching this video because you understand that infrastructure, so first data moats, and then which leads to infrastructure, which then obviously leads to systems, is the key thing. It is the thing that you need in 2025 and beyond to actually grow your business and make an impact. So I want to set the stage here, something that Sam Altman tweeted, and he is very hypey as of nature, but you have to really understand the following. It reads, if you are interested in infrastructure and very large-scale computing systems, the scale of what is happening at OpenAI right now is insane. And we have a very hard/interesting challenges. Now, please consider joining us. We could desperately need your help. So in particular, if you have thought about how to squeeze max performance out of a system, then we'd love to talk to you. So obviously, as you can see here, all of this is pointing towards architecture, right? Understanding how systems work and understanding how you get max efficiency out of them so that you can scale infinitely, which you will learn more about. Now, this case study is very, very valuable, and you will get to understand specifically the problem that we faced and also how we started addressing that problem with our thinking and our frameworks that we have deployed throughout this process. So this group of high-profile technology players, which I have mentioned, is all involved in this process. Now, there are two distinct human operators in this case study, or rather in this problem set. Now, each bring personalized expertise and objectives. Now, one autonomous machine, so you have your intelligence and integrating real-time geospatial data. There was a software and a hardware layer, which we're actively solving for. So one of the most compelling insights from this project was basically recognizing that whilst cutting-edge AI models like ChatGPT represents remarkable technology advancements, a critical gap has emerged. And you will learn more about this gap soon, and this has a lot to do with understanding when new technologies emerge. I mean, a great example of this is hunter-gatherer style. You know, if you didn't know how to use a spear, and someone else knew how to use a spear, that person would have been able to actually use that technology, which was the spear, and then obviously get the kill, bring the kill home, share it with the people, have a higher status, whatever, get the girl. We're going to get through that process in a few. These models often struggle in complex dynamic environments where success depends on orchestrating multiple independent tasks, such as analyzing data, making context-aware decisions, and adapting to workflows to achieve specific business outcomes. Now, also the way, obviously, that this is architectured in the direction that things are built, you want to architect it so that when anything changes in the market, that you are able to adapt to that system that is not a rigid system. So current systems excel at narrow, isolated tasks, but lack the holistic framework needed to navigate multifaceted challenges. So here we're highlighting the urgent need for intelligent architecture that can integrate, prioritize, and execute actions cohesively in real world. So looking in terms of the business ecosystem, right? So usually in terms of what you would face if you have something like, let's say ChatGPT, you have human and you have machine, and which is AI in this case, and then you have the outcome of that thing. So human prompts the machine, then you have the outcome. Now here in this problem set here, we have two humans, as you can see here, and then we have the AI, and then you have the desired outcome. Now, there were some few key complexities which we've obviously encountered here. Now, the setup challenge conventional AI architecture that typically focuses on a single and homogeneous user base. So instead of the standard one human-to-human, obviously, design, which I showed you there, now we have the two humans. Now, this AI needed to interpret nuanced multi-party input. So, and also obviously humans, we as humans, we have a bias and it is swung. Now, as you know, in the fine-tuning process, that can also happen. So there were multiple things, that we needed to account for and really trying to understand, is this the best way of taking the founder's grand vision that he had? Because we got approached with this project, and which you will also soon learn more about how we actually landed these deals and how this happens. So obviously, many times founder has a grand vision, and you need to understand how to actually architect something that will build towards this grand vision, because many times you won't be able to just copy paste grand vision. And this is why this project is also a multi-year project, which is on also on the private sector and kind of on the government level, which is very, very important in terms of understanding how architectural design actually gets solved for. So here we have multi-layered interaction, and we have basically reconciling inputs from multi-stakeholders in real time. So we have collaborative problem solving, and also the AI acting as a impartial facilitator that could obviously balance different humans' perspectives, which I mentioned. And then you also have the outcome optimization, where you unify goals and you resolve conflicts to obviously convert on a best shared result. Now, this is what we encountered, and the solution here was pretty simple at the end, because it required time responsiveness and robust data integration beyond typical deployment. So for example, the AI had to maintain advanced context awareness, who is speaking and what is changed in the environment. So what historical data is relevant right now, and what and operate on a code-based hardware stack capable of sustaining millions of dynamic data points. That's why I've mentioned there was also the hardware and the software layer that obviously is in terms of this problem. And it also made it very hard for me to actually put this on paper to explain this problem, because I cannot speak about the fuller set of the problem yet, as obviously it's like under NDA. So many of these things which we need to keep in the, in the back of our mind. But as long as you remember, usually when you solve for human, human machine output. Now you have human has bias, etc. But you can go learn a little bit more about this case study. You can go and check out our thesis. I'll just quickly pull it up here, which we have also recently released. It will be linked down as a downloadable document down below. You can just download that, go through it to read the in-depth case study there. So what we will cover is very, very important, okay? I want you to understand a few things here in terms of like giving you a bit of a background about myself and why this is relevant or necessary for you to listen to. So just in terms of my background, for context, my name is Jacques. I am the founder of Selfbuiltsystems, a leading AI architecture firm. So in 2020, I basically started obsessing over systemization, consumer psychology, and AKA decision-making sciences. And ever since 2019, I really started to get onto this, ever learning curve of being a student of life and being a student of business. So I was walking the traditional path, and in 2020, I decided to drop out of business school whilst I was busy learning from external business owners. See, I was walking the traditional path and going out of my way, as you will see here. Actually, here in terms of this, I had few business iterations since I was 16 years old. I had this merch brand called the Gotham Ninjas. Obviously, it's a failed business, really great idea at the time, I thought. But people told me I need to focus on school. I mean, I even got engaged in running a content marketing agency here where I was, doing some videography for people, making content for them. Then here we have BFX, which was a trading arm of stuff that I had at the time as I was, going through things, learning. I was actually getting pretty good at it. As you can see, I got invited to go to different speeches and talks on stage about this trading stuff, which is a massive learning curve for me. And I learned a ton. I met a ton of really interesting people, and then I met a ton of really good people throughout this process of real, players in the field, which I've also learned about this discrepancy. You get the guys that are really good at what they do, and then you get 90% of the industry, which is in all industries, it's the same. I basically, got signed as a professional, basically model throughout this process, and also I did some modeling and all that kind of stuff. All of this I did basically to bring me to the point of really trying to figure out what I needed to focus on, because self-built systems in itself was just an idea. It was something I was trying to figure out. So throughout this process, I learned, I went out of my way. I did all those things to try to earn some money so that I can actually go and take this money and buy information, because the only way you really get ahead is if you either buy someone else's mistakes, which is either mentorship or some sort of a guidance throughout a process where you can understand what you really need to focus on and what problems you are really meant to solve. And that is through personal development and through seeking the knowledge, and obviously through keep seeking, and you shall find, And that's one thing I truly believe. So this is obviously a process I went through. I was fortunate enough to then push through to meet some principal consultants at really big consulting firms, and also people that were running like businesses at the time that were not just internet businesses, but physical hardcore businesses, old school type businesses, and they were making millions of dollars. And this kind of got my thinking to the path. It was like this traditional path that I'm walking. It's just not the path for me. And it really became crystal clear for me that I needed to burn the boats and just take the road less traveled. Even if I was going to eat dirt, that was it. I've never worked a job in my life, and this is what has brought me to this point of consuming a bunch of knowledge, which helped. I mean, I've also read 52 books. It's nothing really. It's just, you're consuming information, but it also taught me a lot, because there is something I learned from Naval that basically stated that, you should not be afraid of any topic. You should be able to jump into that topic. But anyway, that's for another time. So here, throughout this process, what happened to me was, again, I started working on Selfbuilt Systems just as an idea. In terms of what happened, I had tons of failed businesses and opportunities throughout this perspective. It learned me a ton of stuff. And this really led me to pushing and finally meeting this guy called Timon. Which, what was really interesting is that I was so focused on doing my thing. I was looking for a business partner. I say finally, because I was really looking for a business partner, looking for someone to build something really cool with that was operating at the same wavelength. And I randomly in quotations met Timon. You guys might have seen some of his content. He's crushing it right now, doing really, really well, helping a lot of people all around the world. So me and Timon, we decided to team up here. I was basically showing him how to do something on the laptop. Was something obviously we were sharing knowledge, information, and skill sets as we were going through this process. This was actually in his hotel room when it's in very, very early days. You can see there he still has short hair and blonde hair. But anyways, we went through this process. I mean, there was a multitude of things that I've learned, and I wrote it down here. I mean, I learned stuff like, the importance of understanding the role of AI in the metaverse, energy innovation, and last but not least, nuclear power, turning matter into energy, aka basically energy transferring technology and all that kind of stuff. But back to Timon, this process was really cool. I mean, we were able to build something that called the Gifted Academy, which is now called the Gifted School, I think. They had a little bit of a rebrand in terms of, having a new offer and updating things as you always need to with the market. So we scaled this to $40,000 in MRR in about 4 months in terms of the stuff that we were doing. I mean, Timon himself scaled rapidly. He figured out a really cool, hack in terms of like how to grow your personal brand. We built a system around that, and we were really able to, help a lot of creators throughout this process, which you will soon learn more about. But here, as you can see, I've been on probably, if not 700 calls by now, but over 685 to 700 calls, just sales calls in terms of this. This was not just on Timon's offer, but it was on other offers as well, in terms of really trying to understand, what to master, where my skill sets and things are. So here you can see we were a very lean team. We were only a two-man team. And at the time, we, as we scaled, we got a contractor and, one or two other contractors that was helping us throughout this process. But we really had, we're max strong team at like 3 people, which we scaled to 40K, which was really, really cool. I mean, I also exited this business and, which you will soon learn more about in terms of me having to focus on self-built systems. But as you can see here, I made my first ever AI video here. This was about 2-3 years ago in terms of me doing a market framing map here using a tool called Infranotice. Really cool tool if you want to go check it out. And then also, obviously, as you can see, the tons of money shots and different results throughout this process. I mean, I spoke about this, like closing like 11K deals. And, this is basically how we scaled throughout this process, learning a bunch, pivoting, iterating the offer. There was a lot of things that we had to do there to really make it stick. But as we were getting really good at doing this, getting really good at not only acquiring attention, but also, converting that attention into dollar, there were many different things which we were working on, obviously on the back end, which then led to us basically doing the following. So we got very good at doing this building and scaling of the business component and obviously personal brands all around the world. My role was mainly strategy in terms of working on the strategical component and deploying that, making sure that the business and the operations were running really smoothly. What then happened throughout this process is that Selfbuiltsystems, as I had a back-end offer for Selfbuiltsystems, which we didn't really push, but we kept it alive. We didn't kill it immediately. Selfbuiltsystems was shaping up. I was working with SMB businesses, as you can see here. Here's Gideon, one of the companies that we worked with on their sales process. They were also one of the best companies that I've worked with in terms of culture, which you can go check out there. We started to grow really rapidly. There was tons of consulting and stuff that we did here. This was an insurance company that were doing around 6 figures at the time. Very early stage company. And this here was one of the leading technology summits. Here we're invited to a private ecosystem event for investors and ecosystem builders. This was in Cape Town. And also here we had a bunch of different things, which you will soon learn more about. But what happened was I needed to put Selfbuiltsystems on the back burner here. Because me and Timon decided, as there were different things that we needed to focus on, I needed to put Selfbuiltsystems on the back burner. And then what happened is that more of my energy and focus could go into here. But also in the same time, we had this opportunity that came through a funnel of ours that basically led to me having to, again, not fully being able to focus on scaling Selfbuiltsystems, but focus on scaling this operation over here with our team. So this is called Shuggy.com. Now, Shuggy.com is a premium luxury dating platform. I'm not going to go through everything that we did here. You can also go and check it out on our website if you're really curious to go and see what that is like. Let me just quickly pull that up actually here. So if you go to this site here, you'll be able to go check out some of the case studies and things that are listed on here in terms of having a real in-depth deep dive into those case studies, which I will quickly show you here. These are just some of the projects that we have worked on. But here you'll see, an in-depth breakdown of these case studies and things here. If you really want to go and check them out, see, what we worked on, how we worked on them throughout this process. So going back here real quick. Okay, so what we're going to cover before I get into everything and, unveiling the protocol and all the steps that we're going to be going through, I want to give you just a little bit of a context in terms of where all of this is coming from, what my background is like, all of that stuff, just, for reference sake. So my name is Jacques Janse from Rensburg. I am the founder, and it now turned Selfbuiltsystems into a leading AI architecture and consulting firm. So I've been in the growth space or slash systems building space since 2020, and I've been obsessing over systemization and consumer psychology, aka decision-making sciences, ever since 2019, pretty much, when you start getting onto the ever learning curve of, information, and you become a student of life and business. So in 2020, I decided to drop out of business school whilst I was busy learning from external business owners. And I was fortunate enough to meet also leading principal consultants and people that were actually making millions of dollars doing the thing. These were like hardcore old school businesses. Some of them were internet businesses as well at the time. So how I was able to do that is I was basically going out of my way, starting like these little ideas of these businesses that basically went nowhere, but they helped me make some money for the time to actually go ahead and pay for this information. Because the only way you truly get ahead in life is if you understand how you apply certain pieces of knowledge. And the one way you do that is obviously understanding that if you can buy someone else's knowledge, or if you can buy someone else's mentorship and you can stand on the shoulders of giants, and you lessen the mistakes that you make throughout this process, then that's obviously one way that you can speed up your process. But you obviously still need to engage in this personal development process where you learn more about yourself and understand what problems you actually want to go out and solve in this world and how you spend your time efficiently, right? So as you can see here, when I was 16, 17 years old, I started something called the Gotham Ninjas. This was like a merch brand, and it obviously went nowhere. People told me I needed to focus on school, so I focused on school. And then went into this process here where I started J-Snipes, which was like a content marketing agency. Then I had this BFX trading thing. And at the time, I was just trying to figure it out. I was like learning about this, getting into that, got, throughout this process, got slammed hard throughout this process too. Learned a bunch of what is true and what is not true in terms of, online business and all this other kind of stuff. I met some really good traders, and then I met some really bad people as well throughout this process. I actually got invited to go talk on stage about all this process. I actually got pretty good at doing it, but I needed to ask myself the question at the time, why am I doing this thing? And it was really easy for me to understand because my idea for Selfbuiltsystems and this trading thing, which I was working on at the time, none of them were growing fast. I was getting proficient at doing one, but none of them was really, taking off or really gaining momentum. So I needed to just simply take a piece of paper, draw a line in a piece of paper, and I needed to make a decision. And it ended up me just trading because it was just for the money. There wasn't really no purpose behind it. There was no internal core meaning behind me doing it outside of solving for money. So I decided to drop it, and I decided to put all my energy and focus into solving this path. So this is what I basically did. I modeled, I got signed as a professional model, signed with a bunch of different companies and stuff throughout this process. As you can see, all of that obviously failed as a learning curve, which was great. But then it led me to now being able to do what we do right now. So just some really relevant context. I'm not perfect. So this here, as you can see here, obviously decided to take the road less traveled. This meant that I needed to burn the boats, classic little entrepreneur saying, but that is exactly what I did because I saw this traditional information, which I was learning via business school, which is not correlating with what I was learning from people that were actually doing the thing. So I learned a multitude of things throughout this process, including the importance of understanding, the role of AI in itself, AI in the metaverse, and also energy innovation, and last but not least, nuclear power, turning matter into energy, and energy transferring technology, aka the crypto. So all of that has really equipped me for, this. There's tons of stuff that I went through that has really equipped me to be able to share this with you guys and give you a fuller context on how you're obviously going to deploy all of this. So that's when I basically started Selfbuiltsystems. It was merely an idea that has now evolved into a leading AI consulting firm. But the whole point here is that we now focus on building complex systems, and not now, but ever since Selfbuiltsystems started, the point was to solve for complex systems. The first ever complex system, not really complex, but the first ever system we solved for was understanding how to work out to become better at playing a certain sport. So then you need to solve for a system, you deploy that system, you update the system, you get better at doing the thing when you know what levers and stuff to pull. So that's basically where that kind of evolved throughout this thinking of really trying to understand what do I need to focus on and how does this deploy into serving millions of people all around the world. So by that time, obviously throughout this failure and iteration phase, I was really seeking a partner to build something powerful with. So universally sent or not, I met this guy called Timon Crick randomly in a gym, if you believe in that or not. But I met him in a gym, it was a Sunday, and we started sharing worldviews and perspectives. And then we just decided, we're going to meet up one day. It was kind of garage style. He was living in a hotel at the time. He had an offer running at the time, which we sat down, I looked at things, I was like, okay, this is cool. We shared information, we shared ideas. And then from there, we decided we're just going to team up and we're going to start working together. And then from there, we actually iterated and created something called the Gifted Academy, where we did really, really well. I mean, we scaled the Gifted Academy to $40,000 in MRR, and it took us about 4 months to do that. In terms of Timon was skyrocketing with his growth, making content, building his own personal brand. He figured out some really cool and unique hacks in terms of how to did that. We productized the whole process, and we then went into obviously scaling it to $40,000 in MRR. And I think it is now called the Gifted School or something, but that's what it was at the time in terms of the offer iteration. But here you can see I've been over more than 685 sales calls, if not 700 by now. This has been on different offers throughout this process. As you can see here, some of the money shots and things in terms of how we scale, people that we work with, different meetings and things that we were having. Here's my first ever AI video that I made, in terms of this tool called Innovators. You can go check that out. So this is about almost 3 years ago. But anyway, so as you can see here, we scaled, we iterated, we pivoted the offer, we hit product market fit, and we scaled really hard throughout this process. As you can see, different little coaching session iterations, because my priority was basically the business side of things, operations, all that kind of stuff. So as you guys can see, this produced a lot of really cool different results throughout this process. We work with people all around the world, a lot of different people which we encountered. So one was the sophisticated founder that wanted to scale the personal brand to increase all the other efforts that they were already doing. These were people that were doing 6 figures and above, 7 figures. We even had an encounter with an individual that was on the 8-figure level. So this whole process here was really for you to understand that, all of this is good in terms of like having to understand that there's a few things that you need to solve for outside of AI systemization, is that you really need to understand that there's a side where influencers, for an example, need to learn how to monetize their attention. They're great at generating attention, but they're not that great at monetizing that attention. Business acumen in terms of that, right? Having to understand there were so many different businesses that we worked on. I mean, this guy here, Blaine, really good guy, makes really good content, and he needed some help scaling his operation. And then Chelsea, as you can see that right there, Jacques Landry, the Miami boys, you can go check that out there. Here we were doing some consulting on stuff that they were working on. All of these people basically obviously started on 0 followers, just by the way. There's tons of more of these different examples from coaches, marketing agency owners, consultants, all these different people, SMB business owners, SaaS, service, you name it, we've worked on it. So here you'll see basically Brandon Core, he also started a brand new fresh account that he started that's at 10K. But anyways, he scaled this thing to about 90, it's almost at 100K there. And he also got a really cool meme page. So we've worked on every single business iteration, viral content strategy. And obviously we went ahead and systemized the whole process. And that's what you're going to be able to see right now through the AI lens of AI systems and what that actually means. So as you can see here, what happened is throughout this process, we got really good at what we were doing. Tons of opportunities were coming our way because we understood how to actually attract them to us. We didn't even push or scale on anything on Selfbuiltsystems, as Selfbuiltsystems was just in back end. People were coming to us via word of mouth, and we had some really strong funnels at the time. So here you can see basically, different consulting sessions here. At companies, consulting at the companies, Whamly, different leading companies. These were all tech-oriented companies. This company here was an insurance company, as I was training one of their internal teams. I think this was a marketing and sales oriented session and stuff that we were doing there at the time. But anyway, so long story short, as you can see, there's been tons of iteration, tons of growth throughout this process, tons of results being produced. as you can see, from the branding perspective, from the scaling perspective, and also then moving over to the AI iteration perspective, people from all around the world. Here's Matisse, one of my favorite trading guys. As you can see here, when they crossed 100K, and I think they crossed 100K in 3 months on cash collected, but that's a story for another time, and I'm going to go break down all these different case studies, as you guys can see here. But I was consistently bombarded with questions of people asking me, and they're like, when are you going to launch something, or how can I work with you, outside of not it being an SMB company or whatever at the time, but that was questions directed towards Selfbuiltsystems. And because I was so focused on helping Timon throughout this process scale, we couldn't really obviously scale multiple businesses at the same time. That's just not how it works. So throughout this process, you really need a singular focus, as Alex Hormozi says, one offer, one avatar, until you cross that million in ARR. So that's exactly what we did. But anyways, this allowed us to bring in a lot of new opportunities towards what we were doing. And there was a phase and a time where me and Timon decided that because of all these different opportunities, it was a time for me to actually go and shift my focus and put everything into Selfbuiltsystems and so forth. We decided that, I believe Timon and them are way over basically $40,000 in MRR right now. I'm super happy for them in terms of the new team iteration and stuff that we built in there, because I exited that business, obviously. So this led to us with the following opportunity, as you will quickly see here. I decided to become the CRO in this company called Shuggy with my team, obviously, in terms of what we were doing there. We still had all these other projects that we were working on, but this was one of our bigger projects and bigger things that were happening. There was tons of other projects. We treat all projects the same, but this scale of this opportunity was just a little bit bigger, just in terms of understanding the cards on the table. So here we worked on this platform. We needed to reevaluate product market fit for what they were doing. We needed to look at everything from the ground up, and that's the hardest thing to do. The hardest problem that I've ever had to solve was starting a business from the scratch. If you start a business from the scratch, it is the hardest thing that you will ever do, having to wash, rinse, and repeat till you hit product market fit, till you iterate on your offer, and obviously till you reach a point where you can actually scale. It's exactly what we did with Shuggy. We just decided we're going to flip the script here. They were baseline doing some revenue, but we scratched everything and we started from ground level zero. And then obviously this allowed us to scale to around 3,000 users in 6 months. If you want to go check that out, that equated to around 300K in MRR, which you can go learn more about if you go and check out our case studies. You can go check out on the website link. Is an in-depth breakdown of all these different case studies if you want to go and check them out, learn more about them in terms of the problems, let's call them the normal problems, and then the AI systemized problems which we needed to face. You can obviously have a deep dive on them there. So long story short, what then led to us, achieving this, it was super hard, was not easy. If anyone ever tells you, scaling a dating app is easy, you want to rethink whoever is telling you that. It's actually very hard. So throughout this iteration, many different roadblocks, many different things. We've never actually scaled a dating platform. We've worked on multiple different SaaS-oriented applications, but what we learned throughout this is in the dating industry, because of how tight-knit it is, it's super hard. Everyone knows each other kind of effect. The competition is high. And as soon as someone sees a new iteration on that business, everyone obviously notices. So we had a very short time in terms of people that were going to copy us. We needed to really understand what's our positioning, which you will learn more about, which we then consistently created it's a red ocean, but we were able to actually differentiate ourselves throughout this process to actually stand out, which we then learned a bunch of stuff throughout this process, which then allowed us to actually start another business inside of this ecosystem because of what we learned and the different leverage that we were deploying, which is called modular dating. Now, again, modular dating did not have product market fit, but we had enough data on industry leaders and players which we were teaming up with so that we can have a leverage play in terms of how we built this inside of the ecosystem play that we had going on. So this is basically like the Shopify of the dating industry, to give you an idea of that. It has a unicorn model at the back of it, really, in terms of opportunity and in terms of how fast things are growing. What happened throughout this process is very interesting because we were scaling all these multiple projects. We obviously still had these other projects and things inside of Selfbuiltsystems. We weren't pushing the throttle at all. It just, again, word of mouth, people that were coming to us. And then what happened is that we had some really interesting problems that we faced here. We flipped our thinking once we reached some little bit of traction. We immediately went to facilitate raising some money, and we obviously scaled this. As you can see here, just want to quickly show you this here. We scaled it to around 110 to $120,000 in MRR. Here you can see some proof shots in terms of the deal sizes. They were pretty big deal sizes in terms of how we were monetizing this and different things that were deployed throughout this. If you look into the dating industry, you will understand it's a very costly industry to enter. You need some capital. If you don't have capital, either it's your own capital or someone else's money, you will not last long in there because it's very costly to enter that industry. So anyway, so we needed to do this, and we were then successfully able to raise $2.5 million for this project. I mean, I put some of this money raising proof and stuff in here too. As you can see, we had to go out, basically see multiple different people, talk to multiple different people about this, which then allowed us to do the following. This 500K here is actually not directly connected here. This is in another ecosystem play in our private equity, which you will soon learn more about. But this is just some money raising proof throughout this process. We did actually, we were able to raise the 2.5. We could have raised a little bit more, which we learned later on. But all of that is a learning curve going through this iteration. But anyways, long story short, this allowed us to do that, and this because we were performing so well in terms of Shuggy and modular dating and all the other projects. This then gave me the opportunity to be promoted to director of portfolio and strategy at Soul Invest. And this is where we are today, because now I basically focus on everything which is technology orientated. Which means that I focus on all the tech, all the AI stuff, all those projects which are inside of modular dating as the director of portfolio and strategy. And yeah, this has been some cool iterations. This is what has now allowed us to actually scale this offer. One of our higher end offers is building AI infrastructure for 7 to 9 figure operations, which you can also go and learn more about on our website. It's under selfbuiltsystems.com. And this is where we have generated this case study where we have worked alongside Starlink, DJI, Apple, Alphabet in itself, and then Google. So yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of where we are right now, because now we are sharing our new offer iteration with you guys, which is basically our SMB offer, or for beginners or SMB, having to understand how you, again, like I said in the beginning of this video, apply our higher level thinking and our protocol, which we've built. We have been able to distill that to the SMB level and to the beginner level so that you can understand, where do I start? What do I do? And how do I take advantage of this age of AI? Because it's always evolving, it's always iterating. And a lot of the people that I talk to, a lot of business owners tell me yeah, we're using this and that, and putting some duct taping some things together, but there's no real innovation. There's no real activating of okay, cool. People don't know where to start. That's the main thing that I hear all the time. And I'm going to talk more about this duct tape situation, but that's basically why we decided to launch this, because all of these people that I was talking to, and because we were solving this at the highest level in terms of architecture, is that it became really, really clear to me that we needed to build an SMB offer, something that was going to be able to be you know what, guys, this is where you start, this is what you do, and this is where you can take action in terms of understanding, again, whether you're a beginner or whether you're an SMB, this is literally your architectural roadmap in terms of understanding how you solve for AI systems. That is the point of this video. So, okay, cool. Let's go back and let's quickly go through what we're going to cover. So we're going to unveil the Selfbuiltsystems AI systems and obviously AI, so the AI architecture and AI systems protocol. Now, this is the complete operating system for businesses for your next stage of growth. Now, this will take you, whether you're at 0K, it's going to help you go from 0 to 30K. Or if you're at 30K, it's going to take you from 30K to 100K in MRR plus, based on those case studies and results and stuff that you've obviously seen. Now, if you're already above 100K to 500K in MRR, then you will more fall under the tier of what we were doing at the 7 to the 9 figure level. Again, if you want to have a deeper dive into those case studies, as I've showed you before, what our thesis actually looked like, which we recently put out. So this here is in terms of that thesis. You can go read more about it. There is a downloadable link down below, as I have mentioned. So let's get right to it. What you're going to basically get out of this is that you will, again, be able to see our exact thinking, our frameworks, and all of our workflows and thinking that we have deployed actually being able to engage on this high level. I mean, I didn't even show you guys this, but we actually had to compete in the real world. You know, you have to prove that, you know, you're able to build this thing with multiple different companies. And we got selected to build this architectural project, which I obviously shared with you guys. So that was, you know, we had to actually work throughout this process, nothing which is, you know, handed on a silver plate. So here you can see in terms of this, you obviously learn our thinking processes going through this whole process, and you'll also be able to read the thesis fully and see all of our thinking. At the core of what we do is a deep proven ability to design and deploy AI systems that actually work under pressure and at scale, and in industries where precision and performance is non-negotiable. So this is built on our track record, which is really, really strong. And, you know, obviously you're going to, in terms of see how you're going to take the data thinking, how you're going to take the architectural thinking, and how you're going to turn them into AI systems with your existing legacy systems in your business. That is the goal here. Why most founders stall below 30 or 50K in MRR. And I even want to say in between the ranges of like $2,000 in MRR and like $5,000 in MRR. Because once you get above 10K in MRR, everything changes in terms of your thinking and how you deploy that capital. So let's quickly address this. Now, because we were building this architecture at the highest level and this was consuming so much of my time and my team's time, so I got these messages from older people that we were working with and also existing new people that were coming up, that were seeing what we were building, they were obviously paying attention to what we were sharing on social media. And after doing some gap analysis on the current market and reflecting on what we have to build, again, like I said, it became really clear for me that something was missing in the SMB perspective, because I kept hearing that people either got burned throughout working with some agency or something, that they didn't get the results that they were promised. And this was really a problem for me because I kept hearing this recurring pattern. And then obviously we decided to go in because we understood the gap, and this gap is what you will learn more about soon. So it has a lot to do with technology adoption, as I've said, but you're thinking you need to really understand why you're solving for what you're solving and how you can solve for the AI equation. And that's what we're going to go through here in terms of this iteration and in terms of, so as you'll see here, in terms of what you might be facing in the market, founders might be stuck below, I don't know, 5 to 10K or just below 10K a month. And then you obviously get the 1% founders, which cross the realm of making $80,000 a month in MRR, which is the top 1%. And there's only a specific amount of businesses that actually will ever achieve that in terms of the business, the market cap, and everything that you have to do, even the COGR. So those things are really important. But a lot of people, what I've now noticed throughout this process is, and I've also made this mistake in the past, which I've been able to, you know, course correct and error correct, is that a lot of people will simply go ahead and solve for a problem because some YouTuber or someone sold you into that idea that this is the new thing. And you're not really thinking about, how do I solve real threat level 1 problems? And you will now obviously see what that looks like. What you will hear in the market right now on the internet everywhere is that you need to create an irresistible offer, you need to build a funnel, you need to run some ads, you need to hire some closers. And there's your secret little formula. And because everyone is deploying this thinking and trying to build the same business, or whatever the business is that you're trying to build, making some money online and sitting in Bali or whatever you do there. So the whole point here is that, like, you need to understand this. What's happening here is that it's creating this red ocean effect. Everyone is trying to fish in the same pond, trying to solve for the same problem, and there's no real innovation that is happening, okay? Artificial intelligence is everywhere. Markets are flooded with content about AI and stuff like that, which I spoke about like 2 years ago, if not right now, a year or 2 years ago. But the whole point is that you need to be this guy. You need to be this guy in the Selfbuilt Systems pond. Because what's going to happen is you're not only going to be able to see how you're going to create a market, but you need to understand that if you are already inside of a red ocean, how do you, again, yes, create a market, but how do you seek to solve real problems is two sets of the equation. And you're going to do this through the following. You're going to obviously have to solve for your problem solutions fit. Then you're going to go and solve for your product market fit. Then you're going to solve for your scale. Now, it's very important that you understand these steps. You need also founder market fit, which is also really, it's another topic for another time, but this is the baseline thinking. You do need to solve for product market fit first before you just can, try to scale and make some money online. So this is what you really need to understand throughout this thinking. Now, what we have seen throughout this process, and I've mentioned this, a lot of, only about 9% of businesses ever reach $1 million in annual revenue, okay? And there's a reason for that, and I've explained this a few bits. Now, the adaptation or the adaptation gap or the lag or whatever you will see here in between. I mean, you can go do some research in terms of this chart that I have on here. But in simple terms, what happens is that the environment evolves faster than the species can adapt, leading to failure or a thrive of, obviously an extinction. Now, you can see this on technology adoption curve as well. Usually the people that are early are seen as crazy, and the slow adoption comes and comes and comes until it becomes normalized, right? Then you have missed your gap. Then there is the leverage is then like flattened out. There's no asymmetric value anymore. So now what we're looking at here is the following. What keeps so many skilled founders and smart founders, because if you're watching this, you're obviously super smart and you know what you're doing. So you have between 30,000 or 100K a month is simply the following. It's not experience and it's not a lack of ambition or ideas or even customers. And I've mentioned that now. It is simply the following. They are deploying old playbooks taught by everyone and their grandma on the internet, because of the lovely thing called technology. So what you're doing simply, if you're throwing funnels around, or maybe, you want to build one marketing funnel or 3 or 4 or whatever the situation might be, and you're thinking that you're one killer funnel away, great. Because we've all heard these things. You might have like read half of Russell Brunson's books, or you've read all the Alex Hormozi series, and you keep binging Alex every single day because he keeps putting out great content, but you don't do anything. But the whole point here is the following. Here's what you might have heard in the market. So we have all heard this. Okay, you're only one funnel away. You need a low ticket funnel. You need a high ticket funnel. Okay. Subscription businesses, that is the thing right now. Okay. You need to start a podcast because of blah, blah, blah. And you need a community funnel. Okay. You need to become a micro authority, and then we can become a micro authority. So you need to vibe marketing. That's the thing that's in right now. Either vibe marketing, or you need to vibe code at least like 2-3 hours a day if you really want to make it. Maybe go do that in Bali. That's a great place to go and explore. Anyways, so, or you need some subscription funnel. Okay. You need some school funnel because, Facebook funnels don't work anymore. So now you need a school funnel. That's the thing. Or you need some AI automation business. You definitely need that right now. Or personal branding, that's the thing for you to get over 50K. We've all heard these things. And, they're not wrong or incorrect, but it's been thrown around by every single person. Or even you've heard this, you need a bigger sales team, hiring setters, and you need to just sell harder. You need to bring on more appointment setters. You need to push out more content. Everyone is telling you that you must post content 24/7, turn yourself into a media business, become a thought leader, right? Because that's the way to make money. Or, content is just everything, Content is still important, content is still king, but if you're just randomly producing content for views, or you're turning yourself into a clown, that's a conversation for another time. Now, we've obviously learned this, and we went through this iteration cycle, as I've mentioned. We've worked with top 1% influencers that had over 500K, 1 million, 2 million followers. We've worked with the people that had 0 followers, but were making a lot of money, more than $100,000 per month. And even there were some guys that were making more than that. But what you must understand is that there are different equations which you need to solve for. There's also a solving sequence in terms of what you're really trying to understand where you are, because you need to be able to understand what problem you're addressing first. Now, some other things you might have heard is that you need to change your delivery model. You need to stop doing everything yourself. Stop trying to run that one-man business that everyone's trying to sell you, right? And you need to basically, because everyone's obviously telling you can run a one-man business that does, gazillions of dollars every single month. Or you can build a done-for-you coaching model. That's the thing right now. You need to be a coach that coaches coaches on how to coach. Or you can do done-with-you consulting model. That's also cool right now. Also maybe sell some info products, maybe sell some courses or some stuff, and it will help you make some money, right? And now all these might sound familiar, but those are all tactics. Grand Slam offers. Everyone's read Hormozi's books, like I've said, just run more ads because that's what you need to do. Just send more cold outbounds or create a VSL. That's very important. But all these things were, obviously tactics that were deployed 5 years ago. They are the cost of entry, not a winning strategy. Everyone and their grandma, like I said, is running the same VSL funnel or webinar, sending the same outreach scripts because you need to post value content and give away all your free stuff, is what everyone has been taught. So, this brings us to the point where new things like AI automation agency has been spun up, which is, obviously another thing which you have heard. Now, the harsh reality is this. I want you to look at some top 1% examples. And we're going to start with artificial intelligence here, just in terms of what it means. I made a video explaining the difference between intelligence and artificial intelligence. But what you need to understand is if attention is all you need is a paper that was written by some of the Google team. Now, if attention is all you need in the realm of AI, what does that mean for human intelligence, right? And we've also seen all this attention hooking that's been going on online, the war for attention, right? Between intent-based data and the war for attention is where really these things are coming together. Now, this is an age-old marketing tactic which has been deployed. I mean, you must have heard this many times if you're watching a video like this. It's called know, like, trust. So you need about 7 hours, and it's still backed by data, for someone to go through your thinking process, see you for the first time, make a purchase decision. And this also requires 11 touch points. And then obviously interactions you need with a potential customer, which is via 4 platforms. And you need some other stuff to keep the consistency and the nurturing going. So why can The Rock, he's an old school example, but why can he go ahead and utilize all this fame that he's built up? And how has he been able to sell you alcohol, right? He's built an alcohol brand, which he has making a lot of money from. How is he able to do that? Why is he able to, there's some other stuff that they're pushing right now, which you go and check in, link in his bio. But the whole point and the thinking here is that you must understand, how can Dwayne do this? What allows him to do this? Obviously, he's got a bunch of followers, but that's an old school example, right? Now, another really great example here is this guy. How is he able to dust off all the professional boxers, or however you see it? How is he the thing now that most people are talking about? And how is he able to basically raise a bunch of money to sell you deodorant? It's an e-commerce product, right? And there's a W on the deodorant. But another piece of thinking is, how did this guy, right, that looks like an old Viking, how did he basically go ahead and create a betting company and a bunch of other companies? He even started a venture capital company as an influencer, okay? How's he doing that? That's the question you must be asking yourself. How's an influencer that ran around in the backyard a few years ago, now starting venture capital, a betting company, all these different things, raising millions of dollars throughout this process, working hand in hand with his brother, okay? And this girl here, you might have heard about her. Her name is Kim Kardashian. How is Kim Kardashian be able to have this evaluation with her business Skims? How is her sister able to launch a popcorn brand recently where they raised $12 million for this popcorn brand? And how are they able to raise $12 million for this popcorn brand, right? You need to ask yourself that. How is Kim and Khloe Kardashian able to do this, okay? They're making millions and millions of dollars. And this guy, everyone's favorite, the Conquer Your World guy, okay? Now, what's important here is, even though he's got these allegations and people are trying to drag him down, he's still motivating a bunch of people. He's still changing a bunch of people's lives and impacting a bunch of people's lives in different ways. It depends on how you see it. But how is he able to generate millions and millions of dollars through his businesses and stuff that he's doing, right? And then another great example is what we did with the Gifted Academy. How was Timon able to go from having a fresh account to basically 2.7, 3 million followers in less than 12 to like 16 months in terms of that iteration of scale across all different platforms? How are we able to do that? And how are we then able to monetize that into a business, which then produced $40,000 in revenue whilst I was obviously there, right? I'm pretty sure they're doing more right now. So how were we able to scale in 4 months to that revenue multiple? Ask yourself that question. As being a 2-man team, which we then obviously got some contractors and stuff that we got on board, how were we able to do that? That's one thing you need to really understand. Ask yourself this question. Why did Elon buy Twitter? Okay, that's also another great question to ask yourself, because here Sam Altman is even hinting at the fact that he might even start a social media app besides the billions of dollars that they have already raised for all this AI, right? Why is he doing that? And the last little example here is, how can Conor McGregor start a betting company? What gives him the right to start a betting company and sell? He's also sold you alcohol, but I believe he exited that business or something happened there. But anyways, these are some grand examples. There's some tons of other examples that I can go through, but I want to be respectful of our time. Last one here, I guess I should just mention, how is Alex Hormozi able to, consistent? Why is he just producing consistent content? Why is he doing all this stuff? I mean, I'm not even talking about what he did with Gym Launch and how he's building his PE arm of things, which is a conversation for another time. But these are people that you know, okay? These are people that you've seen them every day. And also another great example, why is this guy dunking his face, showing you his exotic morning routine, you know, all the tapes and stuff that he has? Why is he doing that, okay? Ask yourself that question. But anyways, so all of this comes down to the following. It is not your effort that is lacking, it is the systems behind your effort. Now, when we look through this through a systems thinking lens, which is the first lens, you need to understand how is that deployed in the world of AI, okay? Now, you do not need super advanced bad boy AI, okay, or big boy AI. What you need is really practical thinking and understanding about how the problem is solved, and then it turns into this orchestration, which you have in front of you right now for SMB businesses. But the point is, anyone can do this, okay? That I need you to understand. So you've hit an invisible wall or a ceiling because scaling beyond $1 million a year requires a fundamental shift in your business and how it operates. So you can hustle to 10K a month, and that's fantastic. You can work your tail off. I know what that feels like. Or you can hit 20K and even 50K a month based on just grit and tactics. But crossing onto consistent 80K plus months in revenue requires a different set of thinking. Leverage needs to be deployed differently, right? So also, do you think that guy that's dunking his head in the water doesn't have a team? You know, you think he doesn't come up with like unique things all the time? So think about that. So now research shows that with such leverage, even marketing spend won't yield proportional results. I mean, in fact, 73% of marketing content budgets are simply wasted. And I can give you that data link if you want to go and check that out. So now in short, what got you to 6 figures is not going to get you to 7 and higher, etc., right? Now, what you need to understand about how you're actually going to do that and the new thinking that you need to apply in this new market and this where we are in this new age of AI is simply the following. So leveraging AI infrastructure and BOS AI systems. Now, obviously, it starts with your data component. It starts with that first, but that all rolls over into AI infrastructure and systems, and specifically AI systems. So scaling to multiple 7 figures in yearly revenue requires, again, you need to have a deep understanding of the market structure and its current environment, and how you can adapt your thinking and all of your energy and efforts in your strategies so that you can stay ahead of the curve. That's what we're talking about here. Now, how you do that is by leveraging the blue ocean strategy, which is what we call product market fit 2.0, which includes aligning yourself with the new tech, which is AI, okay? And obviously all the other tech that's around, which I mentioned. But the whole point here is how you align and how do you utilize this technology. So the new model for capital efficient growth in 2025 and beyond, that's what we're faced with here. Now, the blue ocean strategy is the simultaneous pursuit and the differentiation of a low cost to open up a new market, which I've talked about. Or how do you actually go ahead when you're stuck in this red ocean? How do you start thinking about, positioning yourself different? Or how do you think about displaying something or selling something different in terms of like how they come together so that you can get more traction of what you're doing, okay? It's about creating and capturing unconstrained market space, thereby making the competition irrelevant. We don't believe in competition, but you will have competition. That's the case. Again, I've explained this thinking here. So meaning the best companies create a market. I mean, think about it. How were we able to do this with modular dating, for example? How were we able to scale modular dating that fast in a span of 3 to 4 months? Because of the existing data that we had based on what we were learning and how we were scaling Shuggy. Exactly the same thinking in terms of what we did with the Gifted Academy, because that's the thinking that we applied, right? But this same thinking has also allowed us to be able to not gain early traction, but also go ahead and raise $2.5 million, right? Throughout this process. Which there's different protocols when we get to raising money. I mean, there's a topic for another time. So again, I've mentioned this. It comes to the problem solutions fit, the product market fit, and your scale. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that now. So you need to align the resonance of your channel, firstly, with your communicated value. And that is also known as your USP, in a way that avoids revenue diversions and roller coaster effects. You need to align the resonance of your channel with your communicated value. So your proposition or your communicated value proposition, which is your USP, in a way that avoids revenue diversions and roller coaster effects. Now, you need to acquire more and more customers that are less aware and interested in order to reach scale. Okay, so you're going to take the cold ice man and turn them into a warm puddle. That's what you're looking at here. So the old way of making product market fit was very quite simple. What we're just going to do is we're just going to sell some stuff that people buy, right? Or we just go out and, again, like I've said, we're gonna solve and build a business because big YouTuber person told us to do this because this is the way, right? Now, people would choose products based on gut instincts or those examples that I said, and simply use generic phrases for marketing, or even worse, they would simply copy a USP and the value hypothesis of their competition and slap together some branding on it, some stickers. So building useful stuff, which is important here, you require two sets of data streams. You need environmental data and you need customer data. That does not change, okay? And this is why data-driven processes are so important. That is where everything starts. All the big businesses that you know right now, they all have dialed in data-driven processes. Now, I'm talking businesses which are at the top of their game. Those businesses know it's all about data moats, which I will talk about soon, which is also why it was so easy back in the days to do solid numbers with the same products, because buying media on different channels was super cheap and you could get basic product market fit just through testing a bunch of ads, right? Now, ads and creatives were stupid simple to run, and market giants had leading positions because they were first to market, not because they had these advanced tactics, right? Now, this is when you page a few pages back. Now, this was around iOS 14. Now, obviously, we've evolved throughout this process, and there's many other things that are happening in the market, but I need you to understand that, right? Things became a little bit harder in terms of tracking. So now the advent of small teams. This is a topic I've spoke about many times online. But what you need to understand is the following. This was happening between 2022 and 2025, and you can go and look at Crowder data here. So in stressful times, what happens is that entrepreneurs need to go out and they need to recruit new technology to solve this new existing problems that pop up, right? Now, you can also go look into the ARC thesis by Kathy Wood, because you'll get a little bit of a deeper understanding of what that actually looks like. But that is where the thinking comes from. That is what happens. New leaders are born in stressful times, and this times of stressful economic times, this is where the real innovation actually happens. So, because if it doesn't, we will go extinct. So in 2018, it was far too easy to make a fortune with bad dropshipping products and Facebook ads, okay, thanks to godlike algorithms. In 2022, CPMs dropped and people stayed home and had free capital, which was literally thrown out of the window in the e-com boom. In 2021, VCs were throwing around money and they were funding literally any idea. How irrelevant, as long as you can dance your name correctly after at least 3 tries. So in 2022, TikTok ads started working and it was really awesome. And you were looking at numbers like Facebook in 2018. And in 2023, the revolution of AI took the world by storm, right? Leaving mass adoption of new technology, which I've spoke about, to people, right? You need to figure out, what is this thing? How does this work? How does this correlate with all the other things that we're doing right now? And what is the impact on society? We were seeing many things happen there. And then obviously in 2024 and 2025, you have the age, the now existing age of AI and the age of the creator-led economy, which you will obviously see. There's also this copy and paste apps that are happening right now. And I'll talk about more about this soon, but your idea can simply be cloned overnight by some kid in Manila, if you're not sure what you're doing. Okay, so because we are now moving forward, the market is way more sophisticated than it used to be, and people are not dumb. And the whole point here is that we are now past the Lambo bro era, or the trader bro era, or whatever you want to call it. And we are now in the trust economy. Now, this is why I am stating that the attention economy is no longer the thing. It is still part of the thing, but we have now moved towards a more trust-based economy because of the following reason. I have stated this also a year or 2 years ago, but the whole point is that because of AI in itself, what happens is that content creators or different people, as you can now see all over the internet, are making all sorts of AI-driven content. And now this is obviously flooding the market, which does create a different gap when it comes to creating content or to creating some sort of a brand. Many different opportunities. I mean, we've even built an agency that is just making AI-oriented content with different AI strategies, which we will talk about a little bit later. But the whole point is we are in the trust economy, connected to the data economy, and in the age of AI. But anyways, so let's move forward. So all trends, if you were lucky enough to ride them. So all trends, if you were lucky enough to ride them in time, have secondary consequences marked by growth, inertia, and delusion. Now, the loss to data due to tracking means that the costs are rising. Now, this is the cost to acquire a customer, right? Now, I've mentioned this also some time ago. I spoke about this a lot, but on the baseline, what you need to understand is the cost to acquire a customer is up by a lot. Okay, and because simply there's been no new marketing channels since 2016, okay? And people are just flooding them. And again, like I said, with AI content, it is just flooding it even more. So, and this is also creating a distrust in people. People, most people don't like, most people would rather do business with people. Not completely AI yet. When you bring the robot into your equation, there's all these different movies about the apocalyptic, this, that, and it's creating a fear in the market because people also don't know what is going to happen with this AI stuff, okay? And this is now driving the following, that 55.2% of people are getting customers via free product, and 39.8% of those are converting via video, podcasts, stuff like that, right? But that's in 2024 that I spoke about that stuff. This ultimately means that it is almost impossible to achieve success following the same footsteps, at least the old strategies or playbooks or what people have deployed, right? Now, to achieve sustainable success, we need to create our own artificial blue ocean. So this leads to lower cost per acquisition, stable performance, and MER at scale. So getting more market share and dominating your competitors. Now, you might think, but how do I do this in a niche with no obvious differentiation possibilities, like shoes, fashion, supplements, dating, health, etc., or even stuff like AI in itself? Now, again, I need you to ask yourself the question, how were we able to do that in the dating industry? Super competitive. It's one of the fastest growing industries as well, which not a lot of people are aware of, but that is a super competitive industry, okay? We follow this exact same thinking. So, because these are the strategies and the secrets that only top 1% systems designers and engineers truly understand and apply, and is truly the strong influence for the success of a lot of the different case studies, obviously, which I have shared with you. Now, our goal is to artificially create a blue ocean which sets us apart from the competitors and makes us independent from market situations and attracts our ideal customer. So the secret is in finding a message that resonates with your customers, one that they haven't heard a gazillion times, right? The secret is in finding a message that resonates with your customers. Now, obviously, as I've mentioned, you want a message that is not the same as everyone else's message. Now, this is what this actually looks like in a visual representation. Want to be on this side, which is a message with the same wavelength as your customers will resonate in a result. So figure number one shows what happens when you introduce a product to the market with basic product market fit, similar to everyone else. There's a delta between what the market really wants and the messaging that you are broadcasting to them, meaning that you never really resonate with the market and you miss the high amplitude of the wavelength. Now, exactly the thinking that I've mentioned here, again, we were not the first people to solve for personal branding at the time, a year or 2 years ago. And the whole point here is that we were not the first people to do that. And the way that we obviously position and all that stuff is where this comes in, right? Now, you somehow manage to generate initial traction and revenue, but aren't able to scale past 6 or 7 figures a year, let alone reach a solid level of profitability. Now, figure 2 shows what happens when you broadcast a message with resonance, which I obviously showed you there, right? A massive pull, a massive word of mouth, and seemingly infinite scale becomes possible. Exactly in our case study examples, right? So this is the potential of creating your own blue ocean and product market fit 2.0 by combining the right positioning with the branding of the brand and meeting the needs and the desires of the market. We create a unique access channel with which you can then profitably scale. So to drive the point home here, it is what happens when you try to basically scale in the markets. Now here you have a basic product market fit on this red here. And then you have this blue line here basically showing what happens when you don't have a ceiling, when you apply the product market fit 2.0 and something that we call the jetpack. So What you have to understand by now is in order to create a blue ocean in a red ocean, you need a deep understanding of the market and the ability to understand opportunities that others have overlooked. Obviously, that's all a combination of different sets of data, and it all comes down to your data process, right? Now you have your data, you have your signaling process, you have your correlation, machine, missing data estimation. Now this is basically just your decision-making process on what you build, why you build it, all that kind of things. And this all comes down to an intelligent model, how you make your decisions, and then it leads to a decision and an action, right? So the old playbook versus the new reality, what you need to understand, why funnels and setters just aren't enough anymore. So let's zoom out for a quick second and look at the growth playbook of most founders, which I have mentioned before. They will tell you that you need to create irresistible offer, build a funnel, run ads, hire closers. And that might sound familiar, right? Because that's what everyone is teaching you doing for free on the internet, right? Now, the thing here is, like I've explained, ad costs are up, consumers are more savvier, and trust is harder to earn. And obviously AI is flooding everything. So a new funnel alone is not a business strategy. DMs alone are not a growth engine. And you need to understand the old way and then what the new way looks like through the AI architectural lens, through the understanding of what the AI architecture looks like, and then the understanding of what the AI systems actually look like. Because as much as we want to fully just build an agent that just does everything, even Manus in itself and other leading of those agents, they aren't fully autonomous. And we need to understand that first, okay? We need to set the bar. So what does this actually even look like right now when you apply the AI lens through AI systems? Now you have autonomous AI architecture, which I've mentioned. Obviously it starts data, rolls over to autonomous AI architecture. Then you have smart AI distribution engines, and that's content grid. The old way would be cold DMs, and the new way would be intelligent buyer journeys and AI-driven outbound. Then you have templated tactics, and now you have basically customized AI protocol, workflows, playbooks, agents, etc., org charts, which we will talk about more soon. Then you have manual systems and VA reliance. You have automated operating systems, also based on Selfbuilt Systems protocols, which we have built, and we deploy this every single week. Now, fully integrated AI business stack, which we'll look at a little bit more what that actually looks like. Now, what you need isn't another funnel or a setter or an ad or whatever people are telling you. You need a complete AI-powered machine. You need the infrastructure, and then you need the systems. That is what you need in plain English. So your new reality, you need more than just traffic and tactics. You need to understand AI architecture and AI systems that build the leverage, creates differentiation, and compounds over time. Here's the new reality. Funnels don't build empires. A funnel is just a tool. If it is not part of a larger system, it is like having a single gear in what then needs to be a complete machine. It lacks the components, right? It lacks orchestration. So you need funnels, but by themselves, they do not scale you to 7, 8, whatever figures in terms of what your goal is, right? Now, setters can't save you. I've already mentioned that, right? You need to understand what this old way of thinking is and how the new way of thinking is applied. Now, I put here that basically, obviously, content is still king, but more content does not equals more revenue. The old advice was just produce more value content, just post more value videos, or just turn yourself into a clown or whatever the situation might be. Just get those views, bro. So obviously we've mastered this at the Gifted Academy, which is now called the School. We've been able to learn and systemize that throughout this process, but it is not just content, because content in itself is bad. You need content with AI systems that actually is able to convert your attention and systematically do that so that you don't have to push all the buttons all the time in your business, right? So the bottom line is the old playbooks of isolated tactics is dead. Funnels, ads, content, sales calls. You still need them, but they are not the strategy. Even obviously if you need to drive people to a cart, that kind of situation. So they're all puzzles with a bigger picture. Now, I need to get you to understand one thing here. When you are building a business, you need systems, obviously, to take it to the next level. But what you have to understand about AI is simply the following. Whatever can be simulated, can be automated, because AI in itself does not scale niches. AI scales patterns, and that is the key which I need you to understand here. And when you can put all these pieces together, then you will understand why architecture is so important, because that is the ground level of your building that you're building, right? And you can understand how you make this building actually better. So meet the new playbook here. It was super clear for me to understand this, as I said, when I was hearing this from our existing clients, the projects that we were working on, and the gap that existed in the market. So this is the view of what I understood. So you need your data, which is obviously your data-driven processes and protocols. Then you need your AI architecture. Then you need your AI ecosystems, which we will talk about more later. And then you need your AI systems. And then you have obviously your viral AI content systems. And then finally, you can reach the point where you run a 1 to 3-man business and make millions of dollars, okay? But without these things, you're just not simply going to run that lean team that everyone is pushing you on. So what we solve for at the Gifted Academy, I've already mentioned this, right? We work with tons of different people, and we were then able to actually systemize that throughout this process. And I will show you all the systems and everything that we've built and how we have concretely then put those into AI-oriented systems. Now, without having to do the following here, without having to turn yourself into a clown or into a streamer or into whatever, or having to, maybe even the case of selling your soul or whatever. You don't have to do those things. Now, this is when Selfbuiltsystems.ai was born. Now, this is our iteration from our selfbuiltsystems.com offer, which is with the bigger businesses and stuff that we work on the architectural component. And obviously the mid layer here is where we have selfbuiltsystems.ai. Now, this is basically the new way of scaling past 100K in MRR without having to, move all the gears yourself. And shifting gears is important, and it does feel good to shift gears. But if you're just manually shifting gears all the time, you're just the guy with the shovel, and you need to be the guy with the excavator at this time. So now high growth companies today approach things a little bit differently. They ask, how can we make all these pieces work together automatically and intelligently? Now, if I zoom in here, you can obviously see that this is a visualization of this process. You have your business intelligence, you have your data, then you have your data-driven processes, obviously, where that comes in. And then you have your, obviously it spits out into your core infrastructure and how we get that all out. This might be a bit high level right now, but sit with me because I will break it back down. Now, instead of siloed marketing versus siloed ops, they build AI infrastructure and AI ecosystems and integrated growth systems. Remember, building a business is not all just about marketing. You need a ton of other stuff. And this comes down to that one piece of the puzzle, which what we do is we architect the entire customer journey, business processes from end to end, and increasingly, obviously, they are then weaved into different sets of AI solutions, which include AI automation and AI systems. Now, into every step of that business process, because a biggest thing that we have encountered with many founders that we talk to is that obviously existing founders, if they already have a machine or a system that is producing them 6 figures in ARR and yearly revenue, or 7 figures, they do not want to put a pause on that system. You cannot come to a person and say, hey, I'm going to build you this cute AI automated system thing, or we're going to AI native your whole business. And then you need to basically stop your system and, stop the thing that's making you money so that we can build you this thing. And we don't even know if it's going to make you money. Again, we don't throw AI on everything. We have a specific framework, which we're obviously going through here now, how we actually identify where we start, how we deploy the AI, how do we deploy the architecture, how do we deploy the AI, and that leads to all sorts of different systems throughout this process. Now, if you're feeling the FOMO, it is good because that means that you can see this evolution gap. Now, let's quickly zero in on this gap. The true bottleneck that's holding you back, despite all the hard work, all the hacks, all the videos that you're watching every single day, all the books that you are reading, it comes down to this. It is the lack of scalable systems, not your lack of your hustle. If you're watching this video, it means that you're already working your tail off, day in and day out. So here's the hard truth. Many founders resist at first, but if you do not have systems, you are the system. And if you do not understand the application of AI systems, then you are still in the old way of thinking through legacy systems, right? Now, it is not scalable. And right now, if your business still depends heavily on your consistent input or oversight, then, or even patchwork or hidden fires, then obviously you're still in that same old school thinking, right? Now, business expert Michael Gilbert put it here that systems run businesses and people run systems. Now, it's a little quote I wanted to put in here because it's really important for you to understand. Now, let's diagnose this clearly. What are we seeing in the market with the founders and stuff that we're working with and talking to? A lot of the founders don't have data-driven protocols, and this connects to this data-driven decisions and orchestration. Again, 90 to 95% of founders don't have AI architecture or AI systems. And, you know, founders we work with that are already doing 6 figures, this is what we're seeing with them. 6, 7 figures, etc. That's what's happening there. The guys obviously on the 7 to the 9 figure level also need to flip the thinking because their businesses are more bulky. It's on the enterprise level. It's much harder to actually convince the CEO or someone to actually deploy this new AI native thinking. So that's also a different thinking which you need to apply. But again, a lot of the 6 to the 7 figure guys don't even have AI systems, which is pretty interesting, obviously, right? All of them have SOPs and different systems through legacy systems. But now a lot of founders don't even have workflows or automations bringing things together, right? Building a more cohesive, orchestrated machine. So if bringing on a couple of more clients cause chaos, it means that your operating procedures is just not solid. And perhaps you have no standardized workflows, or you rely on manual effort or no SOPs, etc. And basically you're the product manager, you send some outbounds, you do the sales, you got your cousin to do the marketing or your sister or someone like that. And there are only 24 hours in the day, and you can only make so many great decisions. So all of this basically leads down to this last point, these last 2 points here, is no data-driven processes. We see data being scattered, data processes, no clear, coherent tracking of qualitative and quantitative data to even start with. And obviously there's no advanced data tracking and data-driven processes throughout this thing, which we've seen. Now, I will speak about all this, everyone's focus is on AI agents and stuff like that was main conversation at Davos. And also one of the people that we met throughout this process, which I showed you, one of the VCs, actually this guy here, which I want to quickly show you here. This guy over here, I had a conversation with him because he went to Davos himself. I'll quickly show you here. This one over here, this guy here, one of our VC partners. They have a VC called Riyadh VC in London. But anyways, so long story short, this is a big focus point for businesses, but you cannot build AI agents for specific domain activities if you don't have this, data, which is, again, a really clean processes which are installed, which you can then obviously deploy into your AI agents, which is a conversation, again, for a little bit later. But inability to replicate success, maybe you hit like a 10K or a 20K or a 50K, but you just can't hit that consistently. Now, the true bottlenecks here isn't that your Facebook ads or whatever don't work anymore, or it's saturated or whatever. But we have found the following is that the true bottleneck is that your business is it lacks scalable architecture. And obviously that leads into different sets of systems. Now, it is obviously the backbone of each and every single one of these systems is data and automations that can obviously handle efficient growth, which then leads into the more orchestration of a more AI native business. So the great news is fixing this bottleneck transforms everything. At the moment you install the right AI architecture and AI systems, you unlock growth that felt impossible before. Now, suddenly 80K plus months become the baseline, and you're now strategizing for 200K plus months. And in order for you to do that, you will obviously see how some of our customers have achieved that already, but you need to change your thinking, and this is what happens throughout this process. And this is the thinking that the top 1% uses to achieve that. Now, let's look at some example by the richest guy the richest guy on the planet, one of the most successful and richest people on the planet, okay? One of the best entrepreneurs to ever exist. Now, Elon Musk over here is what I call the world's greatest system designer and entrepreneur, aka the richest guy in the world. Now, how is he able to found and be co-founder or founder and CEO of all these different companies? How is he able to operate like that? How is he able to build something called Doge, which is, helping scale for efficiency on the government level, and again, why did he buy the X, which is a one-click distribution? Now, what Elon does very well throughout our research and studying the great mind of Elon is the following. And this is also a thinking that we deploy in our private equity, which, I will break that down maybe in a different video, but this is some of the exact thinking that we deploy. So what Elon does is that he finds unique problems in unique markets that are real threat level 1 problems solving for, right? In blue oceans, or he simply just creates a new market in that red ocean, like in the automotive industry, right? Obviously in the electrical side of things, it's a lot harder, but you get the thinking. Now, explained in the video process and case study thesis on how we go about doing exactly what Elon is doing. So what he does on the second step is he builds the core infrastructure and the systems. He gets that initial traction, and then he raises the capital, right? Attracting and hiring the 1% talent. And many times he just has the idea, great idea because of his experience and all that other stuff, and he's just able to raise capital faster. Now, what he does very well is he attracts that 1% talent, giving them a true mission to solve and, problems to work on and a target. And then he puts them to work, and then he wash, rinse, and repeats. Now, again, ask yourself, why did Elon go so far to co-found OpenAI? And obviously, he's no longer a part of that stuff that's happening there right now. And he has his own frontier lab, right? Now, why is this so important? Because the smartest people in the world understand the following. That data, obviously on the one hand, leads to now AI architecture, AI ecosystems, and AI systems. It's happening right now. It's not just the future, it's already happening right now. And if you can solve for it right now and you can figure out how to start, then you will be ahead of the curve, right? Now, I spoke about this content posting thing. If you're just randomly posting memes or whatever, that's just not the strategy. What you really do need to understand is how you systemize all of these efforts, right? How do you systemize this? And this is a systemization map here of all these things that we have built and systemized on the content forefront. This is just simply content systems here. Everything from LinkedIn to Twitter to everything on the personal branding perspective, how we've built that then into a AI content system, which you will soon learn more about. I mean, this is one example. Under the agency actually that we started, which you'll also soon learn more about. And here's some other examples on content that is being produced. These people don't exist. Fat Fellas and Swole Brothers, and these people just don't exist. This is all AI generated content, really well finally executed, and these obviously AI models, because we are in the existing in the dating industry. Obviously all of these different tactics are being deployed at the high level there. So all these things are for you to become more aware of if you aren't already deploying them. So yes, an intelligent funnel that tags and sorts leads, you need that coming from each piece of content, right? So that you can nurture them into different sequences, which is AI assisted chatbots or even AI agents if you're getting that sophisticated. And there's a big difference between building glorified chatbots and AI agents and stuff like that. But then, yes, you do need a robust follow-up and AI systems when it comes to sales. We are building towards having a more 100% fully automated sales process, but right now it's just not the case. Okay, you still have pieces obviously where there's humans in the loop. A lot of humans still take sales calls. We have built the flows and stuff like that where you can actually automate the human from the sales call, but what we found it is just not that efficient. The most efficient thing is still to have a human on the other side, whether you're doing cold or whether you're doing video, it doesn't matter. That's what we found based on our data, but we can show you obviously how to architect and orchestrate all of that. So with AI systems, however, each piece of the content becomes an AI-driven flywheel. So you put out a piece of content, you get a feedback. Old thinking was, go look at some viral videos, maybe try to remake them or whatever the situation might be. But you need to have that in a cohesive system, how that actually works. So the AI system and architecture protocol is exactly that, which we're obviously breaking down. And what you're going to be getting throughout this whole process is actually what I quickly want to explain to you. And this is before we reach data modes and why tactics alone just won't help you throughout this process. But before we get to that, let me actually show you what you will be getting throughout this process, uncovering the protocol. So this right here is the ASAP protocol, which I quickly will introduce to you here. So the AI architecture and AI systems protocol. So this is your fast track to 7 figures, obviously in terms of, what you will already be doing, depending on where you are, how much money and revenue you're doing. Again, this applies to beginners and people on the SMB level. So we're going to look at your data, holistic mastery of your data here. Then we're going to look at your tech stack over to qualitative and quantitative data tracking. And then you're going to look at collecting all these different data points, holistic data analysis, SBS AI systems, which is very important there. And then deep targeting and deep understanding. Now we're going to go to phase 3, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Obviously, there are deeper embedded things which you're going to go through all the way to the end that you can actually reach the phase where you are architecting these orchestrations and also the, going full AI native, understanding what your business and company is actually going to look like. I mean, there's tons of different iterations and things that we have on here from the CEO level, but let's stick to the first point here. So what does this look like? Step number 1. So what we're going to do when we're going to start working together is that we are going to take step one, obviously look in terms of having a deep dive in a systems audit. And this is obviously involving a kickstart. So we begin by helping you analyze your current business like a pro. So you'll be able to use our proprietary AI systems audit. This is not just a template, but it is used differently because we have a higher level process audit when it comes to obviously different businesses. Again, if the business is doing 6 figures, there's a different thinking that you need to apply. But the templated version will more apply to people that just have simple ideas or wanting to start a business, etc. But this is the in-depth audit where you will be working with me and my team so that we can go through this process of understanding where to start actually collecting the data, doing all that stuff. And then we guide you to craft AI architecture and AI systems strategy. So this comes through a cohesive AI strategy in itself. It's actually hundreds and hundreds of pages if you're looking in terms of big businesses, but it starts very basic in terms of, when you need to understand how to apply it. But this is at the end of the phase, anyone can really understand that AI systems strategy, and then it rolls into your AI systems. So you will precisely see what's holding you back and have a clear plan to fix it, bridging your transformation gap, which we've mentioned, right? Then you're going to have a full look into our existing AI systems protocol. This is the heart of our offer, a step-by-step protocol. Now in this video, it's basically what you need to understand. It's a dynamic document. It always gets updated because of the the iteration that's happening in the market. So we're going to look at your data-driven. It looks like this. We're going to look at your data-driven architecture, your revenue acceleration through agentic systems, competitive moat building. Now this is more on the data moat building, and then obviously different sets of moats because all these old moats are like losing their leverage, and you need a data moat. Then we're going to look at quantum efficient growth. And obviously this is the first step, which I already explained. Now, when we're building these systems, we say, do design systems that are resilient to change. Now, these are questions that we ask. And obviously when you do apply the thinking and building, it sounds like this. Do design systems that are resilient to change. Do enforce checks on the output of the tools and agents. Do allow agents to evolve and respond to challenges and tools and other agents, obviously meaning that you can't design a rigid system. And then don't gate the release of new versions on, obviously the exhaustive regression testing. And then don't rely entirely on aggregate statistics alone. Have checks on every call, and don't count on agents doing checks by themselves yet. Enforce them with code. Now, this development lifecycle, I call this the old software bro approach. When you're building software, it's a different kind of thinking. Reason why we focus on AI and actual building of the architecture and these systems is because it's a completely different thinking process that you need to go into. So now this is a development lifecycle when you're looking in terms of the agent and also for inside of the present day. Now I can break this down a video a little bit later, but what you need to understand here is that all of this thinking allows us basically to go ahead and build cross-domain vertical agents. Now that's the engineering building process, right? Now this looks like this in terms of what we're looking at here. You have the workflow advantages. Now you have your industry-specific data collection. You have your real-time analysis and predictive insights. And then you have your automation, execution, and decision-making, and the continuous optimization and improvements. Now again, this is not a deep dive on this. This is just to show you that this is part of our processes and things in terms of how we built them. This is what it looks like. And if you zoom out on the larger organizational chart, this is obviously what it will look like here. On your executive level, we're going to move into obviously building more vertical agents. And why vertical agents? Because unlike general software services, MailChimp, Stripe, Salesforce, vertical AI agents deploy under niche-specific data, which is also going to be your data mode. Language, problems, and workflows, they become specialized automating tasks, solving complex industry challenges, and personalizing experiences, and making high-level strategic decisions 24/7 at scale. That's what we're working towards, right? Get it going full autonomous blast. So yeah, this is just some orchestration on what this looks like. Here's another layer of this example. I mean, what it could look like when you're building this out on a Figma, just in terms of that. I mean, I can break that down a little bit later, on a different video if you guys want me to. But the whole point here comes down to the following. It looks like this. You have to understand where these Gen AI use cases are built, how other companies are using them, which is also important. I mean, I can drop you this data if you want to see it. Just let me know down in the comment section down below. This was actually a study that was put out by Harvard on Gen AI. But really, what's important is when we are building these systems and these agents, in this architecture, it comes down to the following here. When you're looking at a problem and objective, what you want to get with this thing, what is the outcome? Usually, when I said, obviously, we want to look at the founder's vision. We want to adapt to the founder's vision and give you the best path moving forward. So here's an example what we're building for Shugi right now. So Shugi obviously is a luxury dating platform. There's a few of these agents that we're obviously actually building throughout this process, but here it's just a grand example. Now, this is not a glorified chatbot. I need you to understand that. I call this the Cupid. Now, why I call this the Cupid, whether they end up calling it the Cupid or not, I don't know, but we have here, the pricing for this thing is anywhere between 50 to 70,000 for something like this, right? For a very, very domain-specific agent. Now, you can build agents for cheaper, which is fair, but when you're going down the custom route of building this, there are different sets of thinking that is deployed in actually getting this done. Sometimes these specific things can be built for like 25K. We've seen these examples, but this specific one, this is the area where we're basically moving towards what the quotation was on for us to build this thing actually, because it's not just going to be utilized, it's going to be utilized into one direction, but we have different architectural and tech stack plays which are also deploying throughout this process, which is why it ended up being around this number here. But you can build something like this for 25K. Lower levels of this, which is going to be your glorified chatbots, going to be like 5, 6K, etc. Or, that's kind of the numbers that you're looking at. But what we're looking at here in this build on this agent is basically the following. We have data-driven and self-improvements. We're also building towards scale from the day one. We know this is going to scale hard, so we're going to be building in guardrails for that. So personalization at scale, continuous feedback loops, specialized expertise, emotional intelligence, and goal-oriented guidance. Now, what I will also do is I will leave a document link down below as a value add for you guys because you're watching this. There is a paper. There's been a bunch of papers actually. If you want to go check it out, I've compiled it into one of our call it like the AI chamber, where we've compiled a bunch of documents, a starter, Kickstarter course and stuff as well for people that want to get into the AI lens of thinking. And this is building many different things throughout that AI market framing, which you can simply go and download if you click the link down below. It's also going to show you how OpenAI is suggesting that you build agents, right? Many different other use cases as well. I think there's one document which we broke down. It's got 601 different use cases for AI in different industries and systems. So you can go check that out. So now interface and interaction layer, how your systems interface with humans, both on the team and the customers, how you then obviously go ahead, create the dashboards for visibility, smooth user experience like chatbot, sales rep, automated onboarding systems, etc. That's going to be your interface layer, right? How they communicate with each other. Now, here is the old way of thinking, how we deployed it, in terms of once we are done building all these machines or whatever, however you're deploying your thinking, what you need to understand is this is our second step in this protocol, which is referring to this step over here. Once we got your assets and everything built, we have your data tracking going, and then we get into the funnel conversion optimizing using AI systems. Now here we have a bunch of things already running, right? I assume you are already running ads if you're watching this video, but remember, it's not about how, if you do it, it's about how good you do it. So then we're going to get into here, we're going to show you how to build those AI ad systems, and also all these correlate, because you're going to look at this in terms of like this. How are you going to correlate and build these cohesive systems together? Where you're going to deploying micro authority or macro authority in terms of whatever direction that goes into. So you're going to have your referral marketing, your paid ads, your cold outreach, how all of these actually work together. When do you do the hard sells? When do you do lead magnets? All of that kind of stuff. And then it comes down to this and really orchestrating and understanding what this looks like from a high level, where we're going to be deploying all this thinking. For an example, these are all of our SOPs and protocols. There's a TikTok shop guide and everything, for focused on the US industry and on the European markets in terms of what that looks like. Many different iterations on how you scale, when you cut ads, when you don't cut ads, all that different kind of thinking and training is applied in the protocol, which I need you to understand because this is something that cohesively needs to work together in a system. And then you can look in terms of how we've actually AI systemized this whole process. You'll be getting access to all of this stuff, existing accounts, when you start a fresh account in terms of the advertising, when you have existing account, when a client's already spent thousands of dollars on that account, what does this actually look like from top, middle, and bottom of funnel approach, when you have your PDP pages, all that kind of good stuff. Now, this comes down to the following here, which you need to understand. So that this is all great and all that, you have your things running, and maybe you have even installed your content system and all of that is running. You're getting your traffic, you're getting your attention. And here's that video that I made a year ago. I'm not sure how long this ago is, if you want to go check that out. Here is our AI agency, basically, that we have started throughout this process, one of our internal partners too here. So here we have all of this stuff running, how we make UGC content, AI UGC content, all that different kind of good stuff. I mean, here's some physical examples of our clients that are deploying these, getting millions of views, as you can see on here on the short form. And so for an example, this is Toast FX, and you can go check them out. Matisse, they're doing really, really well with their business. I've shared a glimpse of that case study. Here is an example of what that actually looked like. Here is almost what I call a meme style content, but this is really cartoon based, visuals. And then here you have these people that don't exist, UGC kind of content. This is what we deployed for the dating industry. It actually converted better than some of the other stuff that we were running. Here is a doctor, Dr. Kat Kesty, one of my favorite doctors that we work with, one of the leading MOS laser surgeons in St. Petersburg in Florida. So here you can see, obviously Dr. Kat Kesty won that award. And this is when they got their first 10,000 views on a video that they were doing some dermatology stuff. But anyways, we've deployed explainer videos like this here throughout the scientific ad process, which we ran. I mean, we deployed founder-based content, classic marketing bro-based content and all that kind of stuff, which we deployed through here, and different things and different iterations. I was even on some of these ads, which we were testing. So, you have to have that scientific ad process. You have to have that rigorous testing still. But all of this needs to be AI systemized, and you need to understand what that actually looks like, right? So here, more examples, which I've already shown you. But anyways, all of these systems, as you can see, for an example here, which I quickly want to show you here. All of these systems, when you produce them right, when they all work together, they produce results like this. So some time ago, we worked with my good friend Dean. He's crushing it. Absolutely really good guy. You should go check out his stuff. He makes some real good content as well. Really, genuine kind of guy. So go check him out. We worked with them when they were doing around $50,000 to $60,000 in MRR, and they've recently crossed 100K in MRR, which is really, really cool. Here you can see, sick. I'm getting so many leads right now. Can't even follow up with them all. Here we have that, iteration. Here is his, in 3 weeks, 3.6 million views. As you can see that, and he's just printing. He's really doing so well. He's just printing. In terms of that, his, MRR case shots and stuff that you can see there. I mean, here's some other deals. This deal I personally closed. I can still remember this one. Was a $7,800 deal there throughout the Gifted Academy stuff. But anyways, there's been tons of these different examples. As you can see that, how these systems all work together is the key. I mean, on the advertising forefront here is just some ad results and stuff on fresh accounts, which I spoke about, and then on existing accounts, when they actually start flooding in. Here's another quick little case study. Here's what it looks like when the calls obviously start flooding in. We've wash, rinse, and repeat that process several times now. I mean, like I said, we've worked with marketing agencies that are on the 7-figure level, that are on the 6-figure level. We've, consulted and helped them through here. I mean, this is a case study with V8 Media, one of the award-winning marketing agencies that we've worked with. They're an e-commerce agency. Now, as you can see here, what ended up happening here is we consulted on their sales process. We helped them there. That ended up being the problem. They're even engaging with deals at this size, which is also now, I believe, connected to a new business or a new private equity that they started. But anyways, you can go check out their stuff. This was obviously on the sales team. A really cool story that happened here is that the client success manager actually came to me once we were actually scaling the sales team on that component. And she was like, Jay, can you please tell the guys to stop closing deals? And this was like, I was like, that's kind of funny. It was a really great problem to have, right? And, you want those kind of problems. Because systems need to adapt. With the more you scale, the more you need to adapt your systems. But anyways, so this also led to us being able to build these capital raising systems, which I will show you here. Obviously, I've showed you a screenshot of the 500K and the other, existing 2.5 million. And there's also been another 5 million round, which we've raised for a different project, which is completely connected to other things in the private equity and also really interesting deals cross-border, which I will share more about soon. I'll be making a lot more content about that. But anyways, so here's the guys that we engage with. Here's the guy from Riyadh, Anas from Riyadh Capital. They're from London. They're a VC in London. Some of our partners have meeting with BlackRock, obviously in London, as you can see there. Here's some of our data center partners. which we met up in person with there. Here's someone that is part of our ecosystem and our network now, runs a 400, she's actually the active manager of a $400 million fund. Also, obviously, we get invited to these events all around, which is ecosystem building in the tech ecosystem all around. He's from Italy, runs a leading cybersecurity company. He is a consultant in tech from Canada. Really cool guys. Yeah, and I mean, this is just some stuff that we were doing in Cape Town with our ecosystem building and stuff like that, different network iterations. So anyways, as you guys can see, that's what it looks like on a full level when all of these are working together. Those are the results that you are able to obviously generate in terms of when, you know, all these machines work beautifully together in orchestration. But now the whole point is, I've already briefly explained this, but once we start working together, depending on what level your business is at, we're going to look at the following. You're going to get access to our team of the finest machine learning engineers, machine learning ops, data scientists, AI architects, AI research scientists, growth marketers, full stack AI developers, and cloud and DevOps engineers, which we have now been able to build really strong teams throughout this process with our different partners through which you will soon learn about, and how we work cohesively together producing these results that we do. You know, our team is really strong at this moment. So this is what it's going to look like. We're going to get you onboarded. We're going to get a smooth process running there. You're going to get a strategic lead that's going to work with you, which is going to be a team lead, and then a project manager, and also the AI, basically the agent manager, which is something later, which we will deploy. But then this looks like you have your AI and your machine learning teams, then you have your data scientists, then you have your software and ops and development, and obviously then you have your growth specialist teams, which will all be working together. And we will be plugging basically all of these teams into our AI ASAP protocol. So this is where the API layer comes in. Right? So most advanced AI architecture and systems protocol on the market to date. And then this brings you back down to the business systems and optimizations layer, because again, we do not believe in just throwing AI at everything. We have to understand which is the most threat level one option for us to actually go in to solve for it, and then understand, you know, is it the best thing to do to basically look into it with the capital and the decisions that we have in front of us to actually go ahead and deploy this AI or this thinking lens through AI. Then we're finally going to reach the point where we're going to do the AI orchestration layer, which I showed you. It's going to look something like this, where we have the AI integrated organizational charts, etc. You have the CEO, you have the CAO, and you have your COO, which will all go down into these OS layers. I call them the OS layers, right? Because you'll still have your human augmented, you know, kind of delivery, and then you have your fully AI agent thinking, how they work together in loops with managers, and what that actually looks like within your side of your operational flow. And then finally also reaching a more, you know, systemized data flywheel, which you're going to be building, which is going to be your data moat. Now, if you want to go see how I was orchestrating, or not really orchestrating on this case, but how I was showing an example of what this looked like when you're building at like level 1 using NA10 or Make or any of these apps, I've made a YouTube video about this. You can go check it out. What we've learned, you know, in 12 months building AI systems for 7 to 9 figure companies. Go and look at that for, you know, if you're a beginner, just some more content if you want to see what that actually looks like. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go into depth here. I mean, you're going to learn about A2A protocol. You're going to learn about MCP, all these different things. Not just learn, you're going to obviously be able to improve and build with us throughout this process, which is going to be the core thing here. I already showed you these systems which we have going there. There's on the personal branding, on the different content systems, which we've built into a cohesive AI system, which is the main thing which you need to understand here. And then the last point which I'm going to make here is simply the following, which I've mentioned, right? Now, data and network moats. Why this is the thing also that you need to understand, which works cohesively with AI architecture. Again, tactics alone won't defend you. So models can be copied overnight, private data and irreplaceable networks cannot. Now, foundation models are now so cheap and abundant as electricity. The only edge that you will have is basically when you plug it into the grid. Now, that's why you need these following moats. You need your moat pillar 1, which is your private data density. Then you need your moat pillar 2, which is your cross-tenant flywheel. And then you need your moat pillar 3, which is your compliance access fabric. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this. Really what you need to just understand is that The business operating system, which I've already showed you, is exactly that. This is what we're building towards, right? That's what you will be getting. And it is all derived off of our thinking that we deployed working with these brands and companies at the 7 to 9 figure level. We distilled, again, that protocol into this layer. We actually built that ourselves with our teams. So we know how this thing works from its core because we own the IP, right? So a lot of people will tell you that, they have someone else that built the system for them or did this or that. It's because they're not in the trenches. They're not actually building architecture. They're just telling you but they're not really actually. This is what 7 to 8 figure companies deploy. They have this business operating system. At Google, they call them operational frameworks. Everything runs on processes and software. Now, I've already showed you what that's going to look like for you, how you're going to start building yours, the steps and the iterations and everything that we're going to be going through. And if you like Shopify and you have seen how successful they are, you obviously understand that Tobias Lutke obviously has put out a memo recently that said that if you don't AI, you're out. And he's just being honest about it, right? And many different other examples and iterations of this. I mean, different examples with UBI that Sam Altman is backing. Why are they backing AI so much? All these different kinds of things. So, and again, I've mentioned why everyone is so focused on AI agents, because that's been the main focus talking point at Davos. So this all comes down to this. You need data-driven systems, you need key optimizations, and you need obviously this is in a continuous growth loop into your systems, which is obviously into your feedback. And all of this comes down to you being able to actually architect and orchestrate all of these things that you need in order to not push all the buttons in your business, not to be that bottleneck. So I've already showed you most of these things. Again, if you want to go through all of these case studies, which I'm not going to be going through right now just for the sake of our time here, to be respectable of that, but you can go and see what all of these different case studies look like, all these different people in different industries where we work with them. Go find them on our website. You can just put in selfbuiltsystems.com. You'll find them. Go study them. Go look at them. I've even seen, I forgot to update this on our website, but you can go and look at all of these different case studies, just for reference sake, if you want to go and study them and learn more about them. And then you will be able to see how we deploy all of this thinking actively outside of what I've shared with you, right? Now, the pattern is clear across these wins. Transformation happens when a system was put in place and new thinking was applied to adapt to a more AI native approach. Not fully AI yet, but it's about understanding the power of artificial intelligence itself and what it allows humans to do. It obviously speeds up many things, but it allows humans to be more efficient, make better, faster decisions, and this is how you start. It was never just one ad or one hire or one viral video. It was the architecture that allowed all these pieces to come together. And for me, working on these different businesses, AI aside, it's always been an architectural component. It's always been an infrastructure component rather, not the architectural component. But for me, it's been about understanding the architectural component, which leads to the infrastructure, which then leads to the systems. Now, you might be thinking, okay, cool, sounds great. All this AI stuff sounds really great, but how do I actually do this in my business, right? And this is what I've showed you. And I've actually went through it a little bit earlier, but this is what I've showed you. That exact thinking, this protocol, you're going to plug that in throughout the API layer, which is exactly this that I showed you guys. But the whole point here is that this is what it looks like when we're going to work with you. One more thing which I haven't showed you yet is basically the following. So when we work with founders, it's this last point here. When we work with founders, it looks like this. So you have obviously it depends on the business and the business, size and level, which I've already mentioned, but you have your domain niche expertise. You bring your domain expertise. We put it into our AI black box. And then we just call it a black box, but it's our data-driven processes that we have in our own company. And then we push towards building that, which I've already said. But what this is going to look like for you is this. We're gonna, if you're starting at the scratch, or you're at ground level 1, or you're at 5 figures, you want to get to 6 figures, we're still going to look at the niche, right? If you're at 0, we're going to validate the niche, but then we're going to be doing this with you, right? 65% of what we do is done for you. And then the 40%, obviously there's stuff that you still need to do. So we're going to help you find the unique gap, and then we're going to move forward. We're going to use the BOS AI systems, which we've already went over. We're going to help you build a unique mechanism. We're going to help you acquire that attention. And then we're going to help you systemize everything. And then once you've systemized everything, then we're going to look at the AI layer. And then all this leads towards you getting a new case study or getting a sale on the checkout standpoint, whatever that might look like for you. But that's the baseline thinking when we're going to go through all of this stuff. So that's the hard truth. And I want you to understand this. Having AI isn't enough. Scaling isn't enough. And with the advent of AI in the creator economy, the new way that brands are built and scaled on the internet is entering the new age, which I've already talked about, right? Now, why most enterprises, the implementation of this fails through traditional consultants or whoever else is because they treat AI implementation like a traditional IT project. They focus on growth or technology and never on both, and they lack advanced business acumen to actually, see what needs to be worked on and have these advanced processes which we've built. So they have missing critical integration points between scaling and systems, which I've already mentioned. And this is obviously how we solve for this, right? We go through all of this so that we can actually reach the point where we're building more AI native. And then obviously this then reaches the point where we are deploying all these AI systems. Now this is your fast track to 7 figures. This is once we have deployed and all these systems are working together. Now, what is a protocol? I need you to understand this because a lot of the times people don't understand this, and it's okay. It basically is a predefined set of rules, guidelines, and structures, processes that define how a system or operation should behave. It is the why and the what. Think of this as like a playbook. It is defining basically the goals, conditions, and the acceptable methods of the boundaries. Now, when it comes down to a workflow, what is the connection between a protocol and a workflow? A workflow is how a protocol gets put into action. It is the how and the when. It breaks down the abstract rules and strategies from the protocol into a step-by-step executable actionables, often involving autonomous humans or hybrid logic, and obviously there's human in the loop. Now, this is obviously how we deploy this. This is our thinking. This is everything that we go through to actually get you to that point where all of these things are working together. As you can see, there is a ton of stuff that you will be learning, deploying, and actively going through for you to actually reach there. Now, we do have 2 tiers here before I end off, the video. But what I need you to understand here is that we do have the following that we are applying. We have 2 tiers, one which we call the AI Systems Protocol, which is part of our AI Lab, and the AI Factory, which is connected to our launch. Now, the AI Lab and the AI Factory is simply everything that we went over until we can reach the point where we actually build the agents and, go through building that orchestration. But for this launch special, this is this is our complete protocol and program, which is described above. It includes everything from the systems audit, everything to the point where you actually have your AI architecture and your systems working together. That will rocket launch you to not only 50K, but past 100K a month if you implement everything in the steps that we go through. There hasn't been a niche that we have worked with that we haven't been able to actually deploy this thinking. Again, that's why I've mentioned this. AI does not scale niches. AI scales patterns. And that's what I need you to understand. Everything that can be simulated can be automated. So niche lock here. We do have a niche lock because of all the differentiation in the industries that we've been able to work with. We do also understand that for this niche lock to work, you will have more leverage in your specific industry. So if we're working with mining, if we're working with a doctor or whatever the situation might be, you will be the only one for this period of this launch period where you will have access to this protocol, plugging it in, going through this processes on everything that we're doing. We'll be working with you hand to hand to make sure that everything is executed to the T where you can reach the scale. So now you also have a founder's access pass as a tier launch Space Cowboy members unit called Space Cowboy. You'll learn more about that later. You get private access to a 1-hour strategy call with me. This is not something that I deploy on the regular. Coming from the gifted situation there, I used to actually have 1 weekly call with a team there, but here you have specialized time with me because my time has become very finite. I usually charge anywhere between $5,000 to $6,000 for like 1 hour of a call with me if we needed to consult on a project or whatever the case might be. But that's where we're leading towards. So there will be a reseller and a licensing rights, which is also important. You can then utilize our protocol, and you can go ahead and become a reseller or different actions that we have with our partners throughout this process. We have some partners that we're in partnership with. There are agencies, there are software companies, and different things that we work together also in order to have this protocol always at the best tip-top shape. And then coming into the tier 2, which is the AI Factory plus partners license. Now, sometimes we get involved with founders that are already, again, at a certain level that can immediately go towards having the problem of wanting all these different agents or wanting a full orchestration being created. And that's where that will come in. But again, the AI Factory and the AI Lab is one cohesive thing here in this launch, which I need you guys to understand. Okay, so urgency here. This is a focused launch. We're capping the number of clients that we take on cohortly strictly. Why? Because we are a boutique consulting firm. And we don't just, simply go ahead and work on any problem. There are certain criteria which we need to check. And what's really important here is that you guys understand is that we're only opening 10 slots. This is now including tier 1 and tier 2 for this launch cohort. It is clear that obviously because we're doing this, these slots will fill up quite fast because of our, in-depth one-on-one approach with these things that we're doing. So given our existing network and referrals, we 100% know that these things will fill up fast. That's why you need to move fast if you wanted to lock in that position or that slot for you. Now, also note that this pricing is launch only. I have mentioned this. We charge anywhere between, like I said, 12 or 15K respectively, all the way up to 20K for different protocol iterations. Now, also a note here that this is the pricing for this launch only. We respectively usually charge anywhere between 15 to 20K. So it is on a first come, first serve basis. So we are rewarding swift action takers because right now we need founders that know that, time is not on your side with this one. Because of how fast this tech is moving, we've all seen the nature of AI. And right now I know smart founders are sitting every single day trying to figure out how to do this more efficiently, how to plug this into the business more efficiently, or having more of the systemized efficiency in the business so that we can achieve capital efficiency and that we can grow the business, in a more smooth fashion without all these different things stopping us from actually growing. The reality check is this. The question is, do founders want to make the right steps themselves with luck for the next 12 to 24 months? Or do you want to get the exact AI systems protocol that we've built, directly from us and work together with us? Now, going from 6 to 7, even to 8 figures requires a change, again, like I said, in your thinking. It also requires to move towards the new model. Now, the new model is going from a centralized approach to a decentralized approach. Here's a little visualization. The new model is moving towards building valuable AI architecture and systems and processes, obviously workflows also interconnected towards organizational success. Now, let's break down the model. For SaaS, e-com, service-based businesses, the new leverage model consists out of using old leverage combined with new leverage. And I've talked about the data moats, which is the new leverage, right? Now, it consists out of AI, code, capital, AI, media, people, and obviously data layers, which you need to deploy. Obviously, the new leverage layer is AI, but that's what this is looking like, right? This is your old leverage, and then you have your new leverage in terms of how I've went through this a few times in terms of what that actually looks like, right? So all of this comes down to you having to understand that as the founder, it's your responsibility for your unique growth model. That is it, right? And how you actually go ahead and iterate on this, because with the overarching business strategy, each department has a clear responsibility and deliverables, which looks like the following. So you have your business development, you have your paid acquisition, you have your retention, you have your R&D, you have your operations, and you have your AI department, right? Whatever that looks like, your CAO. Chief AI Officer. So the success of the organization is dependent on the contribution of each of these building blocks. So you as the founder, you have the responsibility to create this hyper unique growth model and also understand it is your responsibility to figure out AI for your company or to create the department in your company that is figuring out AI for your company. Now, again, this is going to come through trial and error, or obviously you're just going to simply make the decision to work with us, but you cannot outsource this responsibility. You can only find the support in a network of partners or successful founders who have already done this at the highest level. Again, like we've solved for. Now, with every building block, the question is make or buy. And this is the Selfbuiltsystems way. You see yourself doing 5, 6 to 7 figures in revenue or in run rate, and you make the smart decision to work with us. First, we start an extreme deep dive, like I've explained. Like on your company data. What is the existing problems? How is things being solved for? What are the workflows like? Then we simply move ahead and we architect the not only the architecture, but also the roadmap into interconnecting the problems that we're solving, where we're going to start. And at a high level, these are all the things that we cover so that you can understand what this looks like for you and your industry, because nothing is cookie cutter. Everything that we do, you need to understand that it is domain specific. We need some of your domain specific data. Some of our consultants and things in departments which we have very great domain specific data that sits in different industries for periods of time, learning everything about the industry, but we still need the founder involved in this process because that's how we move the fastest. That's what we found. Now, we've also commonly seen that everyone has their own struggles and their own journeys. And now, if there is a problem that you're facing, we have most probably solved for it throughout this process in our network. We don't have all the answers, but surely throughout everyone that we work with and in the network that we've built up, there will be someone that will be able to help you throughout this process, because we've been able to raise money, we've been able to scale, we've been able to build these architectural systems. So this is what you'll see. This is what just a little bit of these examples of what this obviously looks like, right? You'll get access to all of this. Here we have service, SaaS, D2C brands, investment companies, bankers, capital allocators, private equity players, VCs, you name it. They're in our network and you'll be able to get access to them. So this is your call to action. As a business owner, I am always looking for that new edge, and I know you are too. So we've had our own experiences working with agencies, freelancers, and consultants, and I can say that the vast majority of all agencies and consultants or coaching or whatever exists out there, they are really, really terrible. And at the end of the day, all comes down to one of two things: making a profit and fulfilling the founder's vision. That's why I said everything how we build, everything how we do goes towards the founder's vision. But again, you need that cash flow. And at Selfbuiltsystems, we're here to serve you because it is our number one goal to help you become the number one in your niche, period. That is what we're working towards. So if you want to fast track to that, you can simply go ahead, click the link. If you want to fast track that, you can simply go ahead, you can click the link down below to book in a call with me or with one of our consultants, and we will walk you through this to exactly get you to understand, again, like I've said, what does this look like for you in your industry? That is the biggest thing here. Again, nothing is cookie cutter. We educate ourselves. We spend thousands of dollars each and every single year into learning these things, into learning, everything around AI architecture, around AI engineering, capital allocation, direct response marketing, consumer psychology, neuromarketing, through masterminds and different studies that we have done. I also recently got certified as an AI expert, whatever that means. I did some stuff which you guys will see more. But anyways, this is for you to understand. These are the steps that you're going to take to actually reach that point. Simply go ahead, click the button down below to book in a call with me. And again, we will walk you through everything. And we're going to simply help you fast track your process to achieving, just that, because we'll talk about your business and we'll ensure that if it is a fit, that we will help you. We do vet for mindset first. And at the stage where we really do need to understand that you do want to be number one in your industry, you do want to do well for yourselves. And if all of this aligns, we'll then invite you into the program and we'll get you started immediately. If for some reason we feel that it is not a match, again, no hard feelings. We will either show you to someone that could possibly help you, or we will just, figure something out for you on the call, try to provide as much value to you on that call. And then again, this call is free and it is no obligation, but it is mandatory. We only want committed founders and what I call smart founders or new leaders, because this is who we need right now in the world. This is the main data source that I keep seeing, who understand the future. It belongs to those who understand that they are able to adapt, evolve, and learn more about the technology and the application of how they deploy this technology. So that is all from my side. I will see you guys when I see you guys.